How's it going, guys? Welcome to some Notes on Style. I'm Joseph. This week we're going to be taking a look at 12 ways to pair neckwear with a handful of different blue dress shirt options. Wearing a blue dress shirt in 2024 is a bit of an oddity. Frankly, so is wearing any sort of dress shirt and tie in 2024. But we shouldn't get too concerned over whether or not wearing a shirt and tie is on trend. If you enjoy it as a part of your own personal style, feel free to do it anytime you like. Or if you need to wear a shirt and tie for some sort of special occasion or as a part of your professional wardrobe, why not take some pride in doing so and enjoy the combination of your shirt and neckwear as a moment of self-expression. That doesn't mean go out and buy some odd vintage necktie for its novelty or irreverence. The necktie at this point in time really should be something that is at its most versatile. Because there are so few times in which you realistically wear one, you want to make sure that the necktie goes with numerous types of shirts, pants, and jackets, and ultimately maintains a balance between semi-formal and formal dressing. Blue dress shirt is certainly just as timeless as a white dress shirt. White and blue dress shirts are relatively interchangeable, of course, with white dress shirts at the highest level of formality, which is why a blue dress shirt is actually in a lot of ways a little bit more versatile with today's business casual approach, wearing an odd jacket and tie. Blue dress shirts can often be a little bit more flattering in a wider variety of skin tones, and also, when paired with the right necktie, can have a little more versatility in how they pair with different colors and patterns of jackets and trousers. Whereas a white dress shirt can sometimes be a bit stark against your complexion and draw so much attention toward the necktie because of its blank canvas-like effect. Blue dress shirts also range in formality, with the more casual approach being the American Standard icon of the old OCBD, or Oxford cloth button-down sport shirt, then running through various types of checks, patterns, and stripes, such as awning stripes, bangle stripes, candy stripes, pen stripes, pencil stripes, regimental stripes, shadow stripes, and on and on and on. But no need to get too wrapped up in the official names of these stripe layouts. Just know that there are many different types, and we're going to go through some tips today which can help give you direction on how to pair these various stripe layouts and scales of stripes with neckwear, so that you do not create any visually jarring combinations. And then the most formal end of the blue shirt spectrum, typically defined by the collars having a more structured appearance, something like an English spread collar or possible French cuff made up in either a fine plain weave, twill, herringbone, or end-on-end fabric construction. It's the blue dress shirt. And of course, blue is a broad spectrum of color like any other color on the color wheel, but the most classic and versatile shades of blue typically fall within the bottom 30% range of saturation. In other words, light blue to a vaguely light medium blue are most flattering and most classic. Recently I was watching an old rerun of the 90s sitcom Just Shoot Me, which George Segal and David Spade's outfits reminded me of a mid-90s trend in blue dress shirts. That was the royal blue or French blue dress shirt. Geez, I forgot how exaggerated French blue dress shirts became in the mid-90s, even making their way into the Pierce Brosnan James Bond franchise. Here we see an example of Pierce Brosnan in 1999's Thomas Crown Affair wearing one of the most exaggerated examples. For this reason, the very blue of the mid-90s can look a little dated, so it's best to try to avoid such a full spectrum dress shirt and stick with the more traditional light soft blue coloration for a truly timeless style. So let's look at some outfits. First up, we're going to take a look at a few combinations with a base foundation outfit of gray flannel style pants. These particular pants are from Uniqlo's Smart Pants line, which are incredibly versatile and a very affordable price. Pants are essentially non-iron, wrinkle-free, with a very comfortable and visible elasticated waistband, with a drawstring and a shorter inseam, so they're really ready to wear straight out of the box, and some of the most comfortable dress pants you can imagine. These being a dark gray heathered flannel-like color, in terms of dress pants, they can be paired with nearly any type of jacket or blazer. In this instance, I'm wearing them with a tobacco-colored, unstructured cotton jacket from LBM 1911. LBM 1911's line is an offshoot brand from the Italian tailoring house of Lubio. The brand focuses on shirt-like Neapolitan-style sport coats, which have no canvassing, no shoulder pads, and no lining. It makes them ideal for casual, warmer spring and summer tropical climates. I find them especially appropriate these days when tailored clothing is such a rare sight to be seen that even just wearing a sport coat seems to kind of nod towards something more traditional. But ultimately, the lightness of its construction has an air of casualness that most tailored jackets do not have. The only drawback that you may see with mine is that in typical Italian fashion, they are cut very trimmed to the body, with high armholes and narrow sleeves. And if you're on the bigger side of the size spectrum with a more American proportion, These things fit like a second skin. I always imagine if I ever had an opportunity to create my own tailored clothing brand, I would want to utilize their jacket construction, but make them more applicable for an American size range. Because these are by far some of the best casual jackets I've ever worn in terms of light tail. They remain sharply fitted and not floppy, which is often the case in a lot of unstructured cotton sport coats. But at any rate, with this foundation of these heathered gray dress pants and an unstructured tobacco colored jacket, I've pulled a few different looks, starting with this first example of a blue ground with a white fine stripe sport shirt, which I picked up from Banana Republic. It's a bit of a casual choice to wear with a necktie, especially since most sport shirts at this price range for some reason are not very generous with their collar length. So the roll and the tie space is usually a bit stingy. But using this as an example of a type of striped dress shirt in which the colored ground is more prominent than the stripe itself, I've chosen to pair this with a maroon red grounded foulard tie. The secondary color of this tie has within it a subtle detail of a rich blue around each of the repeating paisley shapes, which helps to coordinate it with any blue shirt. It is also made from a madder silk, which has a more muted, gummy texture, and not a high-spun, shiny silk finish. This is personally something I find helps a great deal in keeping the neckwear looking more luxurious. Try to find materials with a very low shine. That way the rich colors and patterns are the main attraction. In this instance, what is working with this combination is the finer stripe paired with a medium scale pattern in the foulard, so that combinations complement one another in terms of their scale pattern and color. And ultimately, the deep red tone is a nice accent against the tobacco jacket being a color wheel adjacent in the warm color spectrum. Next up is a more traditionally American or British pairing, and that is a combination of the striped shirt and a rep or club tie, in this instance a combination of two. These neckties originated in England in the 1800s as coordinating with various school uniforms and came to the United States in the early 20th century, having been associated with various American Ivy League schools. The colors and combinations of stripes pertain to various school and club colors. Additionally, this also has its traditions in various military regimental units throughout England and the United States. So, although quite obscure, wearers of this style must always keep an eye out, and if you have the time, do a little research, because you never know if you might be approached by a member of a particular club or regiment who is asking why you're wearing their signature colors if you're not a member. But realistically, especially in the United States, this association is so far removed that this is not something that really needs to be worried about. And more often, especially these days, these combinations of layouts and colors, crests, various shields are more decorative. So again, when pairing them with a striped dress shirt, more attention should be paid to the actual scales of the stripes so that they are finer or closer together or wider in contrast with the stripes of the shirt you're pairing them with. Bonus points of the colors within the stripes accent or contrast the shirt's coloring as well. In this first example, the deep forest green bridges the cool blue shades of the shirt together nicely with the warmer earth tone tobacco colored jacket. In the next example, this style of neckwear is a bit more interpretive with the traditions of the regimental stripes by, in this case, interpreting them into a silk knit tie. More on silk knit ties later, but generally it could be said that these are some of the most casual forms of neckwear because of their nubby knit construction. But they also keep strong connotations of Ivy League prep styling, so it can be a fun reference and a way of keeping the formality of a necktie a little looser. In this instance, again with the colors of the blues and reds, it coordinates nicely with the blue rounded striped dress shirt. Then, in this example, I've upped the formality of a tobacco jacket and gray trousers by exchanging the striped Oxford sport shirt for a blue spread-collared dress shirt. In this case, because of the Italian-style tailoring of the jacket, the formality of the blue dress shirt is both maintained because of the inherent lines of the tailoring, and also juxtaposed because of the casualness of an unstructured cotton jacket. So next, in keeping with the traditional Ivy League style, the next choice requires a bit of an explanation. This style of necktie is what's known as a novelty repeating motif. This is often seen with some sort of repeating logo or crest or contained emblem on a repeating diagonal layout. Again, this is an old school traditional Ivy League pattern and oftentimes quite a subversive one as well. Motif neckwear actually has quite a tradition of inserting little hidden jokes into the themes of the repeated shape. This particular necktie comes from an old East Coast prep brand, Chip. When I was working at Ralph Lauren, I sought out the tiny Chip offices in Midtown Manhattan to try to do some research on their motif patterns. Once inside the nondescript, grubby, tight office, I walked up to a small chest-height counter with one spinning tie rack. As I flipped through a handful of odd ties, I began to realize just how far out there these motifs can be. Here are some examples which are still available to purchase today at a very reasonable price on their website. For example, we see these fellas with cats on their heads, and unless you've read The Dirty Meaning, Pussy on the Mind, it really makes no sense. So sometimes there's a bit of trickery involved, a little bit of puzzle work as to the meaning of the motif when you first look at it. Here's another example, perhaps a little less subtle, tie with a repeating longhorn with one bowl recently relieved, hiding in plain sight. The bullshit tie. However, the tie I ultimately picked for myself, which I found most hilarious, was called the look closely style. I remember awkwardly shopping in the Chip offices, needing to get quite close to this tie before I understood exactly what was being sold to me, with the deadpan owner, Paul Winston, behind the counter patiently waiting for my response. Maybe this tie is in poor taste, but I think that's the general idea, and I personally found this particular motif pretty subtle from 3 feet away. So in this example, pairing it with the formality of my blue dress shirt, my tobacco jacket, I actually think the messaging of the tie is nearly invisible. I don't actually feel this aggressive toward complete strangers, but I also don't think that very many of them will take the time to actually observe what I have tied around my neck to the degree that they will become personally offended. Iconic and successful necktie combo in every instance ultimately plays on some variation on the shirt being lighter in tonality to the jacket and trousers, and the necktie being the darkest colored item in the ensemble. This brings the attention and focus of the outfit toward the center of the figure, with subconscious directional device of the necktie pointing toward the face. This is the ultimate part of genius of all tailored clothing, because the construct of the lines kicking out the shoulders, pulling in the waist, defining the neck, and drawing the eye toward the face is obvious and subtle, and a remarkable feat of clothing design through seams and proportions. And then, keeping with this darker tonality of the necktie, perhaps a more tasteful example in this case is another traditional motif, this time with a more flamboyant pattern, and that is of this very intricate Persian paisley motif. But again, with the rich coloring of this paisley and its dark ground, the tones of olives and browns complement the tobacco colored jacket very nicely. Because of the earth tones blending together between the tie and jacket, the blue of the shirt is what acts as a color standout in the outfit that draws the eye to the face. And finally, the most formal pairing of this jacket and trouser foundation is that of a deep dark chocolate brown silk knit tie, which again keeps the pairing of the light shirt and dark knit tie for the ultimate timeless classic style, but in this case, because of the darkness of the tie being at its deepest, the formality level is at its peak. And to me, this is part of the beauty of the knit tie. That is, with its texture keeping a type of casualness and a sportiness that pairs nicely with an odd jacket and trousers, but because of its dark tone, it keeps a sharpness in the shirt and tie that seems to rise above anything it's paired with, be it casual or formal, so that this combination can be worn in nearly any occasion without any question of taste. Next up, here's a bit of one-off, and keeping the conversation on a Bengal striped shirt. In this case, a deeper navy and white stripe creates a bolder and more graphic approach to the shirt. In these situations, sometimes the best pairing is that of another stripe, making sure that the scales of the stripes are in contrast with one another. But because of the high contrast of navy and white, the shirt draws a lot of attention to itself. With this particular pairing, a subdued navy rep tie, the boldness of the stripes can be taken down a few notches with the monochromatic color pairing. And speaking of bold and graphic, I've switched over to some examples of a navy blazer combination. In this situation, we're going to be going for a more unapologetically preppy vibe. Again, pairing stripes with stripes, the graphic boldness of this particular Bengal stripe, which is chunkier than the more traditional Oxford stripe, when paired in this case with a dark blue navy blazer with gold crested buttons, the jacket frames the shirt and tie a little more sharply. So in this case, rather than play down the busyness of the stripes, we can crank up the volume a little higher with a still traditional, bolder blue and gold striped silk tie from Ralph Lauren. This particular color block stripe is itself very iconic. Perhaps because of its blue and gold coloring, it's quite evocative of a navy blazer itself. And keeping with the graphic primary colors to round out this outfit, I've thrown on a vintage bright Kelly green graphic baseball cap, a cherry red cotton cardigan, some tassel loafers, and a dose of Andy Warhol with a pair of faded Levi's. Like I said, this is an unapologetically prep styling of a jacket and tie, and with these types of colors, one can't help but think of something along the lines of famous British pop painter David Hockney's personal style, where the full range of the color palette is at his disposal. And next, a variation on this color blocked Preppy style, this time pairing the graphic bangle stripe with a Kelly green foliard pattern tie. In this case, the bold graphic colors paired against a huge golden yellow chunky cable knit cardigan thrown over my shoulders. A bright orange bandana I picked up from Walmart used as a pocket square, some Levi's 550s, and some lug-soled Timberland boat shoes for a Nantucket garden party kind of vibe. With these two outfits, because of the darkness of the navy blazer, the elements of the outfit and its accessories need to be pumped up to reduce the formality of this one particular piece. The navy blazer is certainly timeless, but because at this point in time we are so far removed from the heyday of prep style, it also carries a very strong connotation of a country club type. So the best way to play off this is to exaggerate the elements in an outfit so that the vibe is taken someplace else and not taken so seriously. However, the navy blazer is not nearly as goofy as, say, a striped rowing blazer, and it still can be worn with a degree of honesty. So at the opposite end of the navy blazer spectrum, I put together one of my favorite looks and something I can easily wear quite often to any sort of dressy occasion. It's a look that goes by many names, sometimes referred to as the security guard or the Swiss banker, which I find really hilarious because of its range. This look is so classic and iconic, anyone from James Bond to a doorman can wear this look and no one will bat an eye. Gray trousers, a navy blazer, brown suede loafers, blue dress shirt, and a blue silk knit tie. This look has timelessness and is at the peak of stylishness because these elements are neither in or out of fashion and always remain a timeless combination. Even if the rest of the room is in suits and ties, a navy blazer and gray flannels is perfectly acceptable and in good company. This combination is so iconic, it can often be varied in many ways. Instead of a blue dress shirt, a blue Oxford cloth button-down. Instead of a single-breasted navy blazer, a double-breasted navy blazer. Instead of gray flannels, try some gray jeans. Or you can cut off the top half of this outfit and wear it with blue jeans or white jeans. This type of outfit can easily be worn 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and maintain a level of stylishness that will never waver. For my money, this is probably the safest way of wearing a navy blazer or wearing any sport coat or jacket and tie combination in perpetuity. If you're a young guy starting out or someone that really does not like dressing up, if you have this look tucked away in your closet, you will be covered for almost any formal occasion life will bring you. This combo has been worn by the best of them, even by literary James Bond and Ian Fleming's novels. And finally, the last looks I'm going to present are probably the closest to what I would realistically wear on an average day. We've got an unstructured cotton jacket, in this case from LBM 1911, a little easier fitting in a deep olive green color with light texture in the weave. I've paired it with a brown silk knit tie, which is ultimately still dark but pairs nicely with the other earth tones. And the shirt, a blue Oxford cloth button-down from Land's End, keeps a type of casualness and a timelessness to the outfit. I've got some trim but straight-fitting chinos with a shallow pleat I picked up from H&M, and I'm accenting this with a beautifully printed wool pocket square from Drake's of London, with a rich navy ground trimmed with burnt orange edging, and my vintage brown Cole Haan tassel loafers. It's smart but casual, it's cool and comfortable. The dark necktie keeps its degree of formality, but the coloring of the rest of the outfit prevents it from looking too dressy. This is the kind of look I can easily wear around town, to an early evening event out, movies, or shopping at a store, and not feel too out of place. Its level of classic dressy style keeps me looking sharp, but is not so anachronistic that I feel like some kind of oddball. When dressing like this, I cannot help but feel like some Italian dude strolling in a Roman piazza, because the look strikes a line between traditional and modern, between formal and casual. I feel like I'm prepared for anything that life were to throw at me in this kind of outfit. Finally, a variation of essentially the same outfit, I've traded the dark knit tie for another earth tone neutral, in this case a fine wool cashmere blend, which is thick enough that when tied, the final knot has a bit of a heft. Yet the material's softness is visually evident, so that the necktie ultimately resembles an accessory of a luxurious gentleman and not some sort of standard bureaucratic necessity. This is not the necktie of a suit. This is the necktie of a man of leisure. And perhaps that's the beauty of a tie like this, because we now live in an era in which the necktie is such a superfluous item of clothing. To make a conscious choice to wear a necktie is an assertion of living a certain kind of lifestyle, rather than a required social conformity. That's something I feel like most stylish gentlemen have figured out in today's postmodern way of dressing. Some of these guys choose to wear a necktie because it is much of an item of distinction as it was when it was first conceived. The necktie is no longer a business requirement, but is now an item of personal expression, because the mere fact of wearing one in the first place is quite a distinct choice. But any well-dressed gentleman has in his wardrobe a collection of neckties, which are very personal to him and his style. The necktie is an accessory worn purely to exude character. So even if you've only got one necktie to your name, make sure it's a choice that you've made consciously. Whether it's the most versatile, or the most luxurious, or the rich color or pattern that tells a story, or something you picked up when you were traveling, that necktie can be a type of expression of your own story. We no longer live in an era in which you've got to have 10 neckties to wear to work every day. Now you can make a choice to have one necktie that best defines you at your most presentable. Alright, so that's it for this week, guys. Hope you enjoyed some of the tips and tricks for wearing a tie. It's a subject which I personally enjoy and I love to explore further. I recognize it might not be the most typical with regard to today's fashion, but it's one that I enjoy quite a bit. If y'all have any questions or any further points you'd like for me to discuss, please be sure and leave a comment down below. If you're enjoying the video, please give me a thumbs up. If you're enjoying the channel, please do subscribe. Once again, I'm Joseph, and this is some Notes on Style. See you next time, guys. Thanks for watching.